Yeah, both teams not happy after the Denmark-France game last night. As you can hear there, fans of both sides audibly booing after the final whistle was blown in a 0-0 game. The first goalless draw of the 2018 World Cup, as a matter of fact. And even for being a goalless draw, it was not the most exciting game. A total of 5 shots on goal the entire game, 2 for Denmark, 3 for France. And only 4 total shots from inside the box. Not a lot of huge opportunities for either team, not a lot of action, but this is to be expected by this point in the competition. We're in the third round. Some teams don't have a ton of pressure on them to advance. They're not going to be playing super aggressively. And in fact, this is the longest that any World Cup has gone without seeing at least one 0-0 draw. 36 games played before last night. This game, alongside Australia-Peru happening at the same time, were the 37th and 38th games of the 2018 World Cup. Not a record that's probably going to be beaten anytime soon. So I guess all in all, a pretty eventful World Cup so far, and we should be a little bit happy that we aren't seeing more games like this. So what does it mean? Let's break down what this draw means. Loss last night could have allowed Australia to move on if they beat Peru, but neither of those two things happened, which makes Group C a pretty cut and dry group. Denmark ends with 5 points, France ends with 7, Peru with 3, Australia with 1. Australia's 1 point coming from a draw with Denmark earlier in the round. Denmark is now undefeated in its last 18 games, but analysts are still going to be skeptical because Denmark needs wins in the knockout round instead of draws, and if they keep playing as defensively as they are, they're not going to find very many openings to keep scoring. 2 of their 3 group stage matches ended in draws. The only one that they outright won was against Peru, who is not the strongest team coming into this World Cup. It'll be interesting to see if Denmark can keep this up, especially now that they are going to be playing Croatia, who didn't come into this tournament looking the strongest. They came in a dark horse, ranked about 20th or so overall internationally. But Croatia did win all 3 of their games in group stage very, very solidly and are looking like one of the strongest teams going into the knockout round. Gonna be an uphill fight for Denmark. They're gonna have to make something happen because if they don't put points on the board, they're not going to advance past that round. France, on the other hand, move on to play Messi's Argentina, who just clinched their spot last night after a shaky start to their World Cup. France also looking really strong up to this point. France has only lost 1 of its last 13 games and has advanced from the knockout stage for the second World Cup in a row lossless. 2 wins and 1 draw so far this year, which is exactly how their 2014 World Cup group stage went as well. In their group stage of 2014, they got a 3-0 win over Honduras, a 5-2 win over Switzerland, and then a draw with Ecuador on the 3rd week, which is pretty much exactly how their 2018 has gone so far. Keep in mind that year they advanced all the way to the quarterfinals before being beaten by Germany. Germany, of course, would go on to win that World Cup. Maybe France will be able to win this time around. Both teams, France and Argentina, are starting to find their footing, it seems like, especially Argentina, who did have that rough early patch with a draw to Iceland and a loss early on as well to Croatia. Again, Croatia looking very strong. Argentina looking kind of lost against any team whose defense can shut out Messi's ability to score for the team. France, of course, after tonight, looking like they're going to have the kind of defense that can do that. It remains to be seen whether Messi's Argentina can continue to improve, continue to put up acceptable enough results to advance in the knockout round, to advance beyond that into the quarterfinals, especially against a powerhouse team like France. When asked why this game between Denmark and France was as slow as it was, during the post-game press conference, the French manager actually said that it wasn't our fault. He said, quote, "It wasn't the most exciting game because Denmark wanted to draw. We had a lot of opportunities, but 1 point was good enough for them and we didn't have to take any risks. 1 point was good for everyone. This is true. Denmark came into this final match with 4 points. Even an Australian win would only give them 4 on the board, which would have led to a draw between Australia and Denmark. Denmark drawing against France means that they get the 1 point they need to secure their advance. They probably weren't going to make it out first anyway because that would have been a tall order to jump past France. France also pretty much guaranteed to move on, pretty much guaranteed to get first as long as they got at least a draw. So they're perfectly content to allow Denmark to slow the pace of the game, and it works out that this just resulted in an otherwise completely forgettable game with very few standout moments, very few major plays, very few aggressive openings.
Cornelius is on his way, and Eriksen's arriving! Mondona committed himself, Eriksen went over, and France got off the hook. Close to being a genuine opportunity for Denmark to strike first.
Close to being a genuine opportunity is about the best you can say about the best plays of this game. Not a lot of shots taken, very few shots even coming close to finding their mark. The ones that did were easily dispatched and blocked. Just all in all, a pretty forgettable game, and I think that most fans will be excited to see these teams continue on into the knockout round where they'll have to play more aggressively. But for right now, a game that most people probably just want to kind of forget about.
It ends in the Luzhniki, Denmark 0, France 0.